What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another reaction video, and here we go for you guys today. Nickelodeon is done. Exposed plus childhoods ruined. This is all Dan Schneider's fault, man. Nickelodeon, in my personal opinion, was better than Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, and a whole bunch of other childhood shows or that they used to appear on TV. Although those other networks that had a whole bunch of childhood content that we just loved and enjoyed, but Nickelodeon was the best out of all of them, in my personal opinion. It just what it is, man. Like, come on now, Boomerang, like, come on now, stop it. Like, they had nothing on Nickelodeon when Nickelodeon was in its time. Just Victorious, Ned Declassified, iCarly, Drake and Josh. Oh my god, bro! Like, they had so many, bro. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, the list goes on and on and on, man. Like, Big Time Rush. Are you kidding me? Like, all these bangers that they had over Disney Channel. It's not even funny. It was like they couldn't replicate it. They couldn't replicate the shows back then with Disney Channel. They just couldn't. It just wasn't comparable. When Nickelodeon was in its prime, it just wasn't comparable at that time. But yeah, man, a lot of allegations thrown around with Nickelodeon, and it's basically Nickelodeon is getting dragged through the mud. Right, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say rightfully so, because Dan Schneider is like, he was in control of Nickelodeon for quite a while, so it's only right for him to, like, without Nickelodeon, there wouldn't be no Nickelodeon without him. So you have to go at the source, and yeah, he messed it up for everybody. So I'm not really too mad at this, but I'm mad that Nickelodeon is connected to him because of the stuff that he's being accused for. But hey, man, as the list goes on, it's becoming like they're actually true. You know, as the list goes on and on and on, like with the whole feet thing and how he was doing what he was doing with Ariana Grande and then Victorious, and like it was so weird. Yeah, but let's just get into this video, man.
You are?
Marilyn.
Me and Logan are
My name is Mavis. Take a picture with me.
If you grew up watching All That, The Amanda Show, and Drake and Josh, things might never be the same for you looking back after watching the new investigation discovery series on Max called Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV.
Wait. Okay, so this a podcast of Ned Declassified, basically. And it took, well, yeah, of Ned Declassified. They have a podcast where they actually talk about things that happen in, like, in the entertainment industry in their field particularly, right? And they have an episode on their podcast about quiet on set, where literally kids had to be quiet on set. I have to go check out that podcast, because that podcast is amazing. Especially that episode, that one, I really wanted to check out that, because that one was really like lining, like giving me a light bulb in my head. But I literally have to go check out that episode. I might even do a reaction for you guys for it, but I have to check out that episode, because if this has anything to do with this, oh yeah, I'm on it immediately.
Former child stars and ex-Nick employees are sitting down to expose the network, detailing shocking and horrifying events that happened behind the scenes, and even making you rethink some of the content that was put out there for children to view. I recently talked about how Dan Schneider has responded to the series, but we're going to be talking about some of the biggest revelations from the series, along with how the public has responded and some other former Nick stars, which has actually gotten them in some trouble.
Yep.
In the past, I've talked about what's been said about the famous kids network, as former child stars such as Jeanette McCurdy have come out to talk about their experience on set. When Jeanette released her memoir 2 years ago, in it she included several shocking revelations from her years working at Nickelodeon, things that happened on set and behind the scenes between her and her mom. In the book, Jeanette detailed the exploitation she faced at the hands of someone named The Creator. The Creator was Dan Schneider, a former Nickelodeon executive, the one responsible for shows such as iCarly, Sam and Cat, Zoe 101, Victorious, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, All That, Kenan and Kel, and several others. He was the network.
I was a little bit too young for all that and the well, for all that mostly. But I caught a glimpse of the Amanda Show, and that was hilarious. I'm not gonna hold you. That show was hilarious. But I don't recall all that at all. Like, obviously I've seen it around, but I was too young to even like recognize that show in its glory, days, I should say, because they did reamp it with new people and new characters. But I was there for Drake and Josh, thankfully, because that has to be like that's like top 3 best Nickelodeon shows ever, top 3. So I'm glad I was there for Drake and Josh, because that goes, for me, Drake and Josh goes over all that. Even though I didn't see it, so I'm kind of a little bit biased. It goes over the Amanda Show. And yeah, like, come on now, stop it.
Golden boy and responsible for so many careers. But he's also someone who has a ton of allegations against him, and over the years, people have grown disgusted by what they've heard about him. And rewatching a lot of these shows back, the things that are written into them have...
Wait, say that again? Hold on.
Zoe 101, Victorious, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, All That, Kenan and Kel, and several others. He was the network's golden boy and responsible for so many careers. But he's also someone who has a ton of allegations against him, and over the years, people have grown disgusted by what they've heard about him. And rewatching a lot of these shows back, the things that are written into them have people completely sick by him and the network. Nickelodeon announced in 2018 that they would no longer be working with Dan, and there were several publications that had reported on complaints about Dan's alleged behavior, including his alleged well-documented temper issues. An internal investigation had been done with the company, and they claimed to have found that he was difficult to work with and prone to tantrums and angry emails, but says any other misconduct was not found during the investigation. Despite that being what the network claimed, for years now his name has been thrown around with accusations of being inappropriate. In Jeanette's book, she opened up about her negative experience on set of iCarly, with claims that she would be visibly uncomfortable on set, recalling a time during a kissing scene with her co-star Nathan Kress that she was being shouted at by the creator and had to reshoot the scene several times.
Why?
Jeanette also wrote about being pictured in a bikini at a wardrobe fitting and having the creator encourage her to drink alcohol despite not being of drinking age. She says her mom was present for some of the things that happened while working on set, but would brush anything negative off as just this being a part of Hollywood. Following her exit from Nickelodeon, she claims she was offered $300,000 from Nickelodeon to never speak publicly about her experience there, and she declined the offer. And since the release of the Investigation Discovery series, people have been speculating on who might have actually taken that hush money.
You know, it's actually quite interesting that she said all of that, because after Sam and Cat kind of like died down and ended and basically got canceled, I was so mad when that happened, because I was there for that. I was there for that series, and I was wondering what was they gonna do for season 2. Was it season 2? Yeah, I think it was season 2 that was about to do. I think it was season 2. But nonetheless, it was a new season that was about to come, right? And I always wonder, like, what happened to the next episode? They never talked about it. I've never seen no new episodes about it. And I always wonder why, like, whatever happened to that show? And I eventually got the answer. But, yeah, man, it just happened so randomly, and, like, they cut it off. So, like, they didn't even, like, address it. And so it was kind of weird that even happened. Even though those old episodes are still playing still today, it's weird how they just ended it off like that. But then, like I was saying, Jeanette basically started doing other acting, like other shows after that show died down, Sam and Cat. And because of 2016, she was on like a crime show, something like that. And I think after that, that's when she stopped acting. But she did do some shows after Nickelodeon, so it's not like it wasn't completely ruined for her. I guess just it's just Nickelodeon that she just despises. So, yeah.
Her mom was present for some of the things that happened while working on set, but would brush anything negative off as just this being a part of Hollywood. Following her exit from Nickelodeon, she claims she was offered $300,000 from Nickelodeon to never speak publicly about her experience there, and she declined the offer. And since the release of the Investigation Discovery series, people have been speculating on who might have actually taken that hush money, believing that she couldn't have been the only one to have been given an offer like that.
Of course
now,
not.
in the series, they truly discussed so much. It was very disturbing, I must warn, with tons of triggering topics, and the fact that this will make you remember these childhood shows much differently afterwards. The 4-part docuseries focused heavily on Dan, his career, and what he was bringing to set. 2 female writers for The Amanda Show were featured in the documentary, having said that working with Dan was like being in an abusive relationship. They claimed he didn't think women were funny. They also said that he would play adult content on his computer.
So why was the Amanda Show a thing then if he didn't think women was funny? I don't get that. What? And then you got 2 writers that's working on the Amanda Show too, and like that is what?
Docuseries focused heavily on Dan, his career, and what he was bringing to set. 2 female writers for The Amanda Show were featured in the documentary, having said that working with Dan was like being in an abusive relationship. They claimed he didn't think women were funny. They also said that he would play adult content on his computer and make people do uncomfortable things like give him massages. Which, since the release of the Quiet on Set docuseries, Dan had come forward in a video he posted to his YouTube channel where he did admit to the massages. One writer, Jenny, and her lawyer filed complaints against the production company for gender discrimination, hostile work environment, and harassment. A settlement was reached, but she says her career suffered from this as a result. And speaking of The Amanda Show, several points were made about this show in the series. People found so many moments uncomfortable from these shows that Dan was behind, and this was one of them. There was a scene discussed where he is in a hot tub with a very young Amanda Bynes, which just feels so unnecessary. She was a child in a swimsuit, and he's a grown man. Like, why are they in a hot tub together for a—
Honestly, I remember the scene just a little bit. Like I said, I was real young when the Amanda Show came out. Or if not, then I was born like shortly after the show was already in its like beginning stages. But when you're a kid, you're not really noticing these things because you're literally just there. You're just watching the show for like the entertainment purposes only. So me seeing this scene, it's like, I'm obviously as a kid, I'm not seeing anything wrong with this, like at all. I'm just there for the entertainment and the laughs and the giggles. But this is kind of messed up a little bit. Like, it's weird. It's weird to see Nickelodeon like this, you know, like viewed in this type of light. Especially when you watch Nickelodeon as a kid and you've seen all these great moments that you think is great moments, but most of them is really like, oh wait, no, that was kind of weird, you know.
Writer Jenny and her lawyer filed complaints against the production company for gender discrimination, hostile work environment, and harassment. A settlement was reached, but she says her career suffered from this as a result. And speaking of The Amanda Show, several points were made about this show in the series. People found so many moments uncomfortable from these shows that Dan was behind, and this was one of them. There was a scene discussed where he is in a hot tub with a very young Amanda Bynes, which just feels so unnecessary. She was a child in a swimsuit, and he's a grown man. Like, why are they in a hot tub together for a scene? It was also made known that one of the characters that she played on a sketch in The Amanda Show was Penelope Taint, and writers in the docuseries claimed Dan was inspired by the word taint, and he wanted to be like his little secret that that's what the word was. And tons of people have just been shocked and disgusted to learn this because from their memory it was Penelope Tate, but this is just unbelievable. It just felt like in so many of these shows that though they were supposed to be for kids, they wanted to have kids do these very adult-like things almost to just try and see what they could get away with. I do remember that when I was a kid, my mom did not like me watching The Amanda Show or all that, finding things really inappropriate whenever she would sit down and see me watching it. And I always thought it was so ridiculous because I'm watching a freaking kids show, you know? But now as an adult watching this back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I see why she didn't want me to watch this. Like, she was very much seeing the things that everyone is seeing now. But I did see a ton of other people on TikTok talking about the fact that their parents also said the same thing about not wanting them to watch this show because they found something weird about it. Fans have heavily wondered what happened to Amanda Bynes over the years, as Dan Schneider was so heavily involved in her life and her career. It seems he saw her as his ticket out of children's television, but in the end, it didn't work out for him following her, and he came back to prioritizing children's programming again. And there's just so many questionable scenes that he was responsible for, like we talked about The Amanda Show, but looking back, they also showed scenes of Ariana Grande from Victorious where she's pouring water on herself while she's laying in a bed. And
this is what I remember. This is the most, because I was of age to kind of understand a little bit of like what was kind of, it was like kind of, there was something off about this. Like when I go back to see this scene, like these are some, like, I'm like what am I watching? Like it's not like a typical Victoria episode. This is like a side thing to where this is like for some people that would want us to watch some nasty stuff, you know. This is not your typical television episode. This is some dark-ish right here, man. Like this is completely out of your norm when it comes to kid shows. This is what I remember, like, vividly. Like with the Amanda show, there might have been some scenes that I didn't like take into consideration, that I didn't fully ingest as a kid, and it's like it went over my head mostly. But I was of age to kind of know some of the things that they was trying to do, like with the feet thing. Like that was over the top. When they had Victoria do that whole little hamburger skit where they was pouring the ketchup and the lettuce and everything like that, and like I'm like, how is this allowed? It just doesn't make any sense.
Like we talked about the Amanda show, but looking back, they also showed scenes of Ariana Grande from Victorious where she's pouring water on herself while she's laying in a bed, and it just isn't appropriate at all. There just seems to be so many adult innuendos happening in the scenes of these shows. There's also one where she's playing with this pickle-shaped toy and then later on tries to gag herself while telling a joke. She's also seen squeezing a potato in one of the other scenes. And watching it back, the adults being interviewed for this series were shocked that this was even aired on Nickelodeon.
Exactly.
There was also discussions of how certain stars were treated over others, as the All That alums Brian and Giovanni discussed their experiences on set. Brian talked about how he felt racially stereotyped in the roles given to him as a rapper named Lil Fetus and a teen who sold cookies in a Girl Scout sketch that was basically a reference to drug dealing. He also said his mom had called out odd behavior on set when they were talking about a lot of the things that have since come out about predators on set. So she was noticing some weird stuff. And to get into one of the very dark topics of this series, Drake Bell was a huge part in this. And at first, a lot of people weren't interested in what he had to say, given that in 2021, he had pleaded guilty to a felony charge of attempted child endangerment and a misdemeanor charge of disseminating matter harmful to juveniles related to inappropriate text he sent to a teenage girl in 2017. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation and 200 hours of community service. But in the series, it seemed to reveal that he had suffered horrible things as a child himself while acting on Nickelodeon by his dialogue coach, Brian Peck, whom he was introduced to on set of the second season of The Amanda Show. And let me make this clear because tons of people have been asking after hearing his name, but Brian Peck has no relationship to Josh Peck. This was the first time that Drake was speaking out about the abuse that he had endured during his time in Nickelodeon. He said Brian had befriended him and would invite him to his house for acting lessons, and horrific acts had occurred. And it wasn't until now that it's been revealed that Drake was the unnamed minor in the 2004 conviction of Brian Peck. It was extremely hard to listen to this part, mostly because Drake Bell's father had really noticed Brian's behavior and was very wary about Drake hanging out with him, did not want him to be left alone with him. He even at one point had expressed concerns that he felt about Brian's behavior towards Drake to people at the network, but he was dismissed. They were just like, oh, that's just how he is. He's really friendly. But Drake's...
Okay, so I can understand why Drake turned out the way he kind of did. But, like, I still can't see Drake and Josh the same, like, even after what like, Drake and Josh is still a top 3 Nickelodeon show forever. It will always be. But it would never hit the same when I watched it as a kid because of all these things that's coming out about it. Especially because Dan Schneider was behind that show as well. So it's like that show was like almost kind of ruined for me. But almost. But I could still laugh at the funny moments and like the giggles and laughs. And like there are some things in the show where I really didn't recognize back then. That I didn't really recognize back then, but I recognize now, and it's weird. It's still weird to me.
Expressed concerns that he felt about Brian's behavior towards Drake to people at the network, but he was dismissed. They were just like, oh, that's just how he is. He's really friendly. But Drake's dad did not trust him, and rightfully so. But Brian got very close with Drake, ended up convincing him that his dad was not being a good manager, and Drake went on to be cared for by his mom. Drake's dad tried to warn his mom not to let Drake be alone with Brian, but that ended up being what happened in the end, that he had been spending a lot of one-on-one time with Brian once Brian had convinced him to not really have his dad in his life anymore. In talking about what happened to him behind closed doors with Brian, he went on to say that one day he was on the phone with his mother and just exploded. He told her everything, and his mom called the police, and Brian was arrested. According to the Los Angeles...
Oh, now you want to listen. Now you want to listen. Now you are... Now you... Oh my God, bro. You see what I mean? Okay, so he got arrested. I wonder what happened to him in his story. Did he ever come back? Like, because remember, this is in 2004 apparently, and that's exactly when isn't that when Drake and Josh actually aired in 2004? That's crazy. Oh my God, bro. I was so young, bro. I was a toddler, bro, watching that show, and and there was things happening during that time. It's wild to hear stories like when you're like super young and you hear all these stories about these shows, and it's like, wow, like you just didn't expect it. Like during that time, you over here laughing at these funny moments, and all this time they have that like they're experiencing some of these stars on these shows is experiencing their darkest moments they ever will experience. Yo, this is effed.
In closed doors with Brian. He went on to say that one day he was on the phone with his mother and just exploded. He told her everything, and his mom called the police, and Brian was arrested. According to the Los Angeles Police Department release, officers arrested Brian on August 19, 2003. Court records show that he pleaded no contest to 2 charges, and the court found him guilty on both. He served more than a year in jail and was made to register as an S offender. And I know we're talking about Nickelodeon here, but there is something to be said about children's television as a whole in general, in the way that it did not seem like anyone was out to protect children back then, and hopefully things are better now, but I just don't know. But it was made known that after all of this, after everything, after he had to register as an offender, he still got a job at Disney working on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
At Disney? Working on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, because that show came out a little bit later. He was on the set of Zack and Cody? No. Ain't no way he turned to Disney and started doing his own thing. That's wild. How? How did you allow this? Who allowed that? Who? He got a set at Disney and started working on the Sweet... No. I can't believe it. I literally can't believe it. There's no way Disney... Alright.
Children's television as a whole in general, in the way that it did not seem like anyone was out to protect children back then, and hopefully things are better now, but I just don't know. But it was made known that after all of this, after everything, after he had to register as an offender, he still got a job at Disney working on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody doing voiceover work. And it's because he was a very connected man. He had a lot of people that he knew in the industry, and that is what is so scary about the industry, is that people are so connected and they're willing to look the other way and believe one person because of money and power and things like that. And it's just so disgusting, especially when you hear about the fact that Drake talked about when they went to court. He was on one side of the room with his mom and his brother, and Brian had all these people, big name people, show up for him in...
I didn't know he had a brother. I did not know that. That's news to me.
Of money and power and things like that, and it's just so disgusting, especially when you hear about the fact that Drake talked about when they went to court. He was on one side of the room with his mom and his brother, and Brian had all these people, big name people, show up for him in the courthouse supporting him. And
that's
Drake
wild.
Had to give a statement, and he made a statement to those people, calling them out for being there to support someone who hurt him. And I just can't believe that people sat there and knew what he had done to Drake Bell, and they were willing to just sit there. It was also revealed that people that knew Brian also wrote letters to defend his character, and a lot of these people weren't just family and friends, they were big name stars, you guys, were writing these letters to defend Brian. And
who's
it's
the stars?
not known if they knew, you know, what exactly went on in this case at the time of them writing the letters. And these might not be the same people that were in the courtroom that day. So they might have not even known that Drake was involved in this. But there were 41 people who wrote character letters for Brian, and some of these people, they were victim blaming, you guys. They were saying that, you know, maybe he was tempted. Like, what are you talking about? A grown man was tempted by a child? Like,
are you serious?
These things were just unbelievable that were written in these letters.
You serious?
One of the bigger names that has been revealed to defend Brian at the time and write a letter was actor James Marsden, who wrote that he's known Brian since he was a teenager. Will Friedle and Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World also wrote letters, but have since come out to say that they regret supporting him. The doc also named Alan Thicke, Taryn Killam, Joanna Kearns, Kimmy Robertson, and Tom DeSanto as some who also wrote letters back then.
Why?
And something that is just so upsetting is that Taryn was also later in an episode of Drake and Josh, and Drake and Josh was
okay. He did look a little familiar though, because I was like, I don't recall ever seeing him ever, but he did look familiar from that one episode from Drake and Josh. But I think that's the only episode I ever seen him in. That's wild. Knowing that he was playing alongside Drake for one episode and he was writing letters is crazy.
And Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World also wrote letters, but have since come out to say that they regret.
And also Sean from Boy Meets Sean or Shane, one of the two from Boy Meets World. That's another show that I didn't really get to. That was literally before my time. But I can't recall it, and yeah, man, I seen some of the episodes, and I'm not gonna lie, I understand why it's goated. I can understand why the show is goated, and they have made Girl Meets World too, so oh man, bro, that's tough. That's tough to hear, man. That's tough.
Supporting him. The doc also named Alan Thicke, Taryn Killam, Joanna Kearns, Kimmy Robertson, and Tom DeSanto as some who also wrote letters back then. And something that is just so upsetting is that Taryn was also later in an episode of Drake and Josh, and Drake and Josh was shot after all of this happened, where they went to court and Brian was arrested. So to know that Taryn wrote that letter and then they worked together is just crazy. I mean, he might not have ever known that Drake was involved in that case, and Drake probably never knew that he had written that letter because those letters were sealed until now. But it's just crazy to look back on that and realize. In a statement to People, Nickelodeon said, now that Drake Bell has disclosed his identity as the plaintiff in the 2004 case, we are dismayed and saddened to learn of the trauma he has endured, and we commend and support the strength required to come forward. Other details about Brian were later revealed as All That cast member Kyle Sullivan revealed that—
The thing is about Drake, right? Did Drake only share that information because of the stuff that he has done prior to those allegations that happened in 2001? Is that the only reason why he dropped it? Cause he been holding on for that for years. He could have dropped that anytime he wanted to, anytime. But he dropped it years after those allegations happened. So I wonder, like, what made him change his tune all of a sudden? Because he held that on for some years before the allegations was even announced about Drake. So I wonder, like, why now? Like, why now? It's still unfortunate to hear that happen. Especially back, like, during the time when Drake and Josh was at his peak. So it's... Yo, this is crazy. I'm getting a whole bunch of new information I never thought I was gonna get. This is crazy.
Required to come forward. Other details about Brian were later revealed as All That cast member Kyle Sullivan revealed that in his home, Brian had a signed self-portrait painting of infamous serial killer John Wayne Gacy.
No way.
The two of them had developed a pen pal relationship. He kept piles of letters and photos from John in his nightstand next to his bed.
No way.
Truly so eerie that
people
like this were just walking around Nickelodeon, working with children. And he wasn't the only employee to be arrested at Nickelodeon for this type of behavior. year. 2 other Nickelodeon employees at the time had also been arrested for things involving children. And as a result of all of this, people have really just been rethinking the content that they were watching on Nickelodeon as a child and really reflecting on the things being said here. And at the end of the series,
because it's crazy. We was younger, like at the time when all of these shows was coming out at different points of our lives. We was still younger than all of them, and we was watching them experience stuff that they didn't want to do. At least most of them. And they was about to become like young adults, about to be. And oh my god, this is so weird. Oh man, my childhood, bro. I was so young watching these shows, man. It's sad to see.
All of this, people have really just been rethinking the content that they were watching on Nickelodeon as a child and really reflecting on the things being said here. And at the end of the series, there is a black screen that says that Nickelodeon told producers that the network investigates all formal complaints as part of our commitment to fostering a safe and professional workplace. We have adopted numerous safeguards over the years to help ensure we are living up to our own high standards and the expectations of our audience. I think at this point, a lot of people are just
why? Why this picture? Like, why? You can't just put this picture up and expect it to be why? Like, this is, I can't.
At this point, a lot of people are just side-eyeing the network as a whole, though. But as a result of the series coming out, discussions have been had all over online with people calling on former Nickelodeon stars to use their platforms to speak out, which I will say this seems wrong. I mean, we cannot ask people to speak out not knowing what their experiences might have been. They might not feel comfortable or want to talk about something like this. It might be triggering. You just don't know. So that seems really inappropriate for people to be asking people to speak out. We just don't know what's going on in other people's lives. But something else inappropriate that has been called out, though, I will say, is the cast of Ned's Declassified, who all have a podcast together, were live the other day seemingly joking about the series, and people found the whole thing to be in very poor taste.
Oh.
Daniel, I told you. Daniel, we told you never to speak about that. Get back in your hole, Daniel, and give me your holes. Sorry, we shouldn't joke about this. We really shouldn't.
This is awful. Why are we doing this?
Because this is about us. Listen, our set was not like that.
Before we continue, he did say that. He did say that their time on Nickelodeon was not like everybody else's on the show. If anything, they had the most wholesome experience that they ever did working with Nickelodeon. But I'm pretty sure at some point they did experience some weird behavior that they noticed, or they experienced at least some point during their time on Nickelodeon, because there's no way that the whole thing was wholesome and it was just like a kumbaya moment that the whole time they was shooting these shows with everybody else. There's no way. But they did say that their experience was nothing compared to everybody else's experience that was working with Nickelodeon at the time. So it's but it's still, I can still see why people are mad at this, that it's insensitive, because you was amongst them too. You was a part of these shows as well, bro. So it's you was working alongside him. So yeah.
Sorry, we shouldn't joke about this. We really shouldn't.
This is awful. Why are we doing this?
Because this is about us. Listen, our set was not like that. And no, it's awful. The Drake Bell is that's crazy to hear. That is. And that never came out, which is really wild.
Drake Bell responded, quote tweeting this on Twitter, saying, "Ned's declassless. This is wild. Laugh it up, guys. Laugh it up. Give me your holes? Really?" And the cast has been receiving tons of backlash since this has gone around. I don't know why they thought to even say the things that they did in this, but they are definitely hearing it from the public, that's for sure. Everyone just seems to be super disgusted by what has come out from this series and wants to see the end of the network, or at least proof that they've made some sort of concrete change to the way that children stars are treated. I think the Kids' Choice Awards this year are going to be heavily protested, in my opinion. Yep. But as of right now, that is what has been said since the series has come out and what was revealed. Let me know if you guys watched it and your thoughts on it. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Shout out to Spill Sesh for the information and the commentary. That was definitely much needed. She touched on a lot of things that I didn't know before that I know now, and it's like Brian Peck, like that. Yo, that's crazy. There's nothing really more for me to say. There's nothing really more for me to say because I already knew like most of the things that she touched on. I already knew most of it. Um, it's still weird. Like it's still weird hearing this, even like watching these shows back then to now. It's a different type of light that I never thought would happen. I thought I'll always keep those moments in forever, and it just wasn't like that. Like these shows were so fire, but everything seems to always have like a dark twisted spin of things that always seems to come out, and I guess this was Nickelodeon's time for it to really shed light on it. They couldn't keep this in the dark forever. So it's sad to see, but at least we still have these shows that they gave us while while during their time. So I guess we can appreciate those moments from what they are and just keep it moving, because life just keeps going. It doesn't stop here. This not gonna be the end or be all, but yeah, man. It just during the time it was it is sad during the time that they was on these shows and what was happening to them, as us as the viewer watching the show, thinking that everything was all good and gravy, and it really wasn't. So yeah, man. Hey, man, we just keep moving forward, and hopefully, the network sees what went wrong and correctly fix their mistakes, so this doesn't happen again. But who knows, who knows, man? New people come into the networks, new people and produce more shows, and then you have all these different personalities coming together. Who knows, we just never know what people are until it happens, and people turn a blind eye to what we see now, and they don't, and some people just don't care, and will just have it just for the sake of the money and the entertainment and what like the type of content that they're providing for the people. And yeah, guys, man, that was the end of the video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see next in the comments down below. Go to my Patreon, full uncut reaction videos in the description down below. Go check them out. If you want to further support, go to my Cash App. It's in the link in the description down below. Thank you guys for all the love and support. I appreciate every single one of you guys, and I hope you guys are here to stay. But with that being said, you guys already know this, man. I'm out of here, guys.